What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the second mixtape by R&B singer The Weeknd. Basically, this project is called Thursday, and it came out in the summer of 2011. So the thing about this particular project is the thing about this particular mixtape is this is the second in a series of mixtapes that The Weeknd put out in 2011 as far as that pitch kind of went. The first one was House of Balloons, which I reviewed in early 2023, and the next one after this one is Echoes of Silence, which came out in the late fall of 2011, I'd have to say. So The Weeknd was blowing up in 2011 as far as that particular pitch kind of happened. He had some revolutionary stuff as far as that particular year kind of went. He was definitely one of the more heralded ones out of 2011, at least in R&B as far as that pitch kind of particularly went with it. Definitely folks like Drake, and I would say there's some other ones that were kind of particularly popular around this time. Usher was kind of on a high, but that was kind of more vintage kind of 2000s R&B. T-Pain was starting to die down a bit. There were some folks like, I can't really think of R&B folks right now. I want to say that Tinashe was blowing up around this particular time. Drake was definitely a large one. Folks like that. I'd have to say the neo kind of R&B type stuff was starting to happen in like the early 2010s as far as that pitch kind of went. In The Weeknd, it was definitely one of the ones that was doing that. And this is a pretty revolutionary project. Just the fact that this was a free mixtape. He already had managed to snag like a Drake feature on here was pretty damn good. So definitely House of Balloons was a pretty large success, I'd have to say in particular. But this is definitely like a classic mixtape, I'd have to say. It's basically going to get a 10 out of 10. I just would have to say in particular, just packed to the gills filled with hits off this particular one. The only unfortunate thing about it is the new song that's on the trilogy album that's with this particular mixtape that makes like the 10th song to Thursday, I would have to say, is Valerie. But the unfortunate thing about Valerie is just the fact that it's not as much of a hit song, but it's really just one of two songs I didn't appreciate on this particular record. So on the 9-song mixtape that came out in 2011, I recommended 8 out of 9 songs on here, which is pretty damn awesome. I'd have to say in particular, but out of the 10 songs, if you count Valerie on the mix, that's with the trilogy album from 2012, that's 8 out of 10, I'd have to say, but still pretty good. I'm still gonna give the album a 10 because 2 songs that I only don't enjoy out of 10 of them is a pretty damn good pitch, I'd have to say. But that's the basic concept about this particular project. There were 3 singles off this particular project. I'd have to say The Zone was the single, and then there were 2 promotional singles, one of which was Rolling Stone and the other which was The Birds Part 1, I'd have to say. So it's a pretty good concept. We get some of these in particular just to have some of that promotion. Definitely paved the way for a lot of stuff as far as that particular pitch kind of went along with it. Just some interesting tough stuff to get here. There's a lot of kind of moody and kind of pitch this type. This is a lot of moody and kind of pitch, this melodic R&B rhyming as far as that particular kind of goes along with it. Just some good stuff here. Like I was saying, revolutionary just within a pitch behind it. There weren't a ton of folks doing this beforehand. This is definitely like some Spotify type stuff and just zone out type music. This really dreary and trippy type stuff. There's not a ton of really like there's not as much of a ton of superbly druggy rappers as much as like The Weeknd is on this particular pitch. This is definitely another shining aspect about The Weeknd as far as that particular kind of goes along with it. Just some great stuff to kind of get here. Drake is definitely a pretty melodic dude and has some good R&B songs as far as that particular kind of goes, but I definitely feel like The Weeknd's trippiness and just overall drear and just malaise upon a lot of this. It's kind of like emo R&B as far as that pitch kind of goes, just within a relative moody type sense. This works to like an extreme pitch just within that particular vibe. Really capitalizes on the sound and really nails it. Just some crown type stuff that really goes along quite emphatically. This is a very emphatic project. It's very powerful and looming and stuff like that. Just some great stuff to go out to Las Vegas and California, Hollywood, some of those type places, New York City, some big places, big cities, pitches like that. Penthouse music, some of those type pitches, just real blue blood and white collar type stuff to kind of get here. Just real emphatic kind of R&B that just has a lot more gracefulness about it than what you may think. There's not really just like typical kind of hop and bop kind of ringtone rap, ringtone R&B type songs as far as that club bopping kind of goes, but I would definitely say the emphasis of these is just pretty strong. I'd have to say this really has some powerful type stuff to kind of get here. Just really appreciate the concept of getting a lot of these. This really, I like the aspect of this being revolutionary is a pretty strong thing to say, just because for this being a mixtape and it being free is a pretty emphasized type thing to really get just within the aspect of it. So some excellent type stuff. It's a short and brief mixtape, but it just has some heralded type stuff that really works quite well. So we'll go ahead and talk about the singles on here. This would have to say The Zone featuring Drake is like the lead single, I'd have to say. Now I don't know the full-blown promotion about this project just because Wikipedia is kind of here and there about talking about it, but it did at least list the fact that The Zone was the single. This song is kind of like a silky but trippy kind of R&B club serenade of a song. I'd have to say it's like an emphatic kind of outing fun. I would definitely have to say, and this is just a social song with some volume about it. So this is definitely one. This is a great pairing with Heaven or Las Vegas and Life of the Party and Lonely Star. Some of those type ones, some of the more club and penthouse type outings. I'd have to say it's some excellent type stuff here to really get just the emphaticness of it. This is really pitch and just overall strong. I just would say some strengthy type stuff to really have for some powerful like this overall burly kind of stuff just in R&B as far as that particularly kind of goes. There's some good stuff here. Really appreciate the concept, but I do like some of these. I mean, it is silky. I mean, yeah, despite the fact that I'm saying that some of these songs are burly, it's really the concept that these are songs for ladies and pitches like that. There's some real trippy love serenades. There's some real trippy love serenades as far as that pitch can goes, but it's just the emphasis behind these. The melodies on most of these songs on this particular mixtape, the melodies are very catchy. This is kind of the concept. The Weeknd definitely knows how to get some very catchy melodies and pitches like that, just to be able to say that a lot of times I think even for a mixtape with this being free, I think there's a lot of songs on here that you could very well find yourself singing along to and just enjoying just exuberantly. I'd have to say just some good pitches to kind of get. But Drake is on here. He shows up at the end. I mean, apparently the Weeknd and Drake kind of had somewhat of a beef. I don't know. That's kind of been back and forth. They were kind of pals back in 2011 and the early 2010s. I'd have to say in particular, it was just a good concept. It's just a good concept to get them on this particular song and other ones. I'd have to say the Weeknd is also on Take Care and Drake is also on the Weeknd's Kissland album, so there's some pitches like that I'd have to say, but good concept there. So the next single would be The Birds Part 1. This is a promotional single, but this is a pretty nice one. This is like a brushy and crisp. The Birds Part 1 is like a brushy and crisp kind of new era workaday single. I'd have to say in particular, it's like a good late day commerce hit. I would definitely have to say about this one. So this one's just a real crisp type one. I would definitely feel like. Really appreciate the brush of this particular song. This has some good aspects about it. I mean, the thing about this particular song is it's just different from other. The thing about this particular song is it's different from R&B that was popular in 2011. When you think of Usher and Pitbull and some of those type folks and Drake back in 2011, some of those particular type pitches, it's a little bit different. It's new era type stuff that was definitely paving the road and trend setting as far as that pitch kind of went, trailblazing some of those type pitches in particular as far as that kind of went along with it. It's a good late day commerce hit. I mean, I almost want to say it's like an autumn type song. This has that real crisp kind of feel about it, but it doesn't quite full blown have that relative pitch of being like spooky or kind of grim. But this is kind of the concept of this is more like September type music, something like that, where it's late summer, early fall, some pitches like that. As far as that particularly kind of goes, just a real. I just like the brushy type feel of this particular one. Just really has like, I mean, the production on this particular song. Some of these productions on this particular mixtape do kind of have like a light kind of tinge type feel towards it. That's kind of why I didn't like Valerie that much. Is just because of the fact that it's just such a staccato type production and just so minimalist as far as that kind of goes along with it. Just the concept of it is just not quite as hitting. There's some ones on here where the emphasis is kind of de-emphasized on some of these productions. There are some great ones on here like Lonely Star and Rolling Stone and The Birds Part 2, but then there's some ones that are just kind of more minimalist like The Birds Part 1 and Gone and Thursday, some of those type ones that just kind of have that emphasis about it. But I would have to say that The Birds Part 1 is a pretty nice one. I just appreciate the brushy type feel of that one. Real kind of relative early autumn type music that works pretty well. It's a pretty good single, I'd have to say. Just a good concept with some new era type stuff. I mean, nowadays it's not as much new era, but the concept is for like Spotify and streaming era type stuff. It works pretty well within that pitch, especially for like a free song. So Rolling Stone was the third single. This is the second promotional single. This is a pretty nice one. This is like a moody kind of malaise late day R&B end of workshift stretcher, I'd have to say in particular. And this is another trendsetter of a song. So this is a pretty nice one. Real pitch type. This is some real pitch type stuff to kind of get here. Really appreciate this one. This is like a great one for just got done with work, some pitches like that. If you're just kind of in a more moody type mode as far as that particular kind of goes along with it, just the emphasis of kind of getting some of these is kind of appreciating the aspects of like, is kind of appreciating the aspects of evening type fare and commerce as far as that particular kind of goes along with this. Is a good concept to kind of get for just, you know, the basic concept of just being more romantic and just kind of in a more romantic type mode, just within the aspect of just kind of some workshift type songs to kind of get for like the dredge and stuff like that, I'd have to say. So this is kind of a stretcher. Just I really like the syrupy kind of beat on here. This is one of the best beats on this particular mixtape, I'd have to say. It's pretty emphasized type one. It's real malaise type one that just drips with character, as I just would have to say in particular. It's just a real nice one to kind of get here. It's a stretcher. I do appreciate the concept of it. But it's just kind of a basic type one nowadays. But what I would say, it's a pretty good trendsetter just within the pitch of being able to say about it, just because there weren't a ton of moody, really R&B artists back in those days. T-Pain wasn't like this. Trey Songz wasn't like this. Usher wasn't like this. Neo wasn't like this. Some of those type folks, other folks like Jay Holiday, some of those folks weren't really like this. So it's just really, I mean, apart from Drake like that was really like the only other folk that was kind of like this, and maybe Kanye West on 808s and Heartbreak, but the Weeknd really expanded upon the 808s and Heartbreak type sound, which is pretty good just within that pitch. That's kind of the concept, but so that particularly kind of goes along with that. So that's a real moody night. Rolling Stone is a real moody type one and a great promotional single, definitely would have to say. That's the concept of it. So basically, talk about the songs I recommend on this particular mixtape. Like I was saying, out of 9 songs on this mixtape, the only real song I don't recommend on here is just Gone. And the main reason for that is just because that's an almost 9-minute song. I'd have to say the pitch behind it is a decent kind of production on here. It's a little bit looming and kind of this like Gone just has some dreariness about it, but it's just a little bit too lengthy a song for my taste as far as that particular kind of goes. There are some other lengthy ones on here, like The Zone is pretty lengthy also, and so is Lonely Star, but I still would have to say I appreciate those just a little bit better, just a little bit snappier. Just they are over 6 minutes, but they're just a little bit more appreciable, I'd have to say, just within that aspect. But 8 minutes is a little bit past the limit for me, I'd have to say, is this kind of the concept. But to talk about some of these, like Heaven or Las Vegas is another nice one. This is another lengthy song. This is a pretty emphatic type one. This is like an ambitious kind of stepping out drear of a song, I'd have to say. This is just like a trippy night. This song is definitely like a trippy night of exuberant ecstasy, I'd have to say in particular. So it's a pretty emphatic type one. This is a good kind of combination with like The Zone, some of those type pitches, just some of that powerful volume type music that I was talking about before. Real strong emphasis, penthouse type music pitches like that. Just some strong stepping out in some of those white collar social type fares as far as that particular kind of goes. You're going out for a night of gambling, something like that, going out to casinos, some of those type pitches, trying to win some big money, some of those type pitches, just having a good time. Some good like costume parties, some of those type pitches, just some of those aspects as far as having like an emphatic type tone, some of those aspects I'd definitely have to say some good concepts, some powerful type stuff, definitely. Real and the melodies on this are just really excellent. I'd say just a real nice, and this a lot of this is just revolutionary R&B that was just different from a lot of things. This is very neo R&B type stuff, and it pulled off the vibe extremely well. Life of the Party is another nice one. This is like a groggy kind of penthouse slash house party haze of a song, I'd have to say in particular. And this is like a groggy kind of penthouse slash house party haze of a night, I'd have to say in particular. And this is just like the night starting to wind down kind of hit, I'd have to say in particular. This is definitely some awesome stuff to kind of get here. This is pretty emphatic type one once again, but it's a little bit more bewildered, I'd have to say, a little bit more groggy, and the drugs in your system, some pitches like that, just kind of a little bit more stone pitches like that, just kind of drunken a little bit, just kind of not so much drive home type music, just within the aspect of, okay, we had a crazy night, now I'm gonna, but just kind of the aspect of just kind of being a little bit dreary and pitches like that, just kind of appreciating the night as far as that particularly goes. It's a real crazy type night, definitely within the emphasis behind it. Really like the emphasis of some of these type ones. I feel like the same sort of stuff was on House of Balloons just within that pitch. I think I actually preferred Thursday over House of Balloons. House of Balloons was definitely more revolutionary just with the aspect of being able to nail it. But I want to say last year I actually gave House of Balloons like a 9 out of 10. Maybe I gave it a 10, but I think I gave it a 9. I don't remember. But I do appreciate Thursday more than House of Balloons. Either way, even if I gave both a 10, I'd say this is probably the more favored one. I don't like, I haven't full blown listened to as much of Echoes of Silence as much, but I would have to say I don't know if I'm going to give that one a 10 just because I've tried a number of times. I've had that downloaded for over a decade now, and I just don't oftenly listen to it apart from a couple of songs, I'd have to say. So it'll be interesting to see what I give that one when I get to it, but that's just kind of the concept. But Life of the Party is a real nice one. Lonely Star is another highlight. This is a song I listen to oftenly, I'd have to say. It's like a day's kind of trippy in motion R&B gem, I'd have to say in particular. And it's like a basic outing evening with like some great melodies about it, I have to say. So this is a real nice one. It's definitely kind of like a club type tune, but it's also kind of one just for being in motion, I would have to say. It's a good Traverse type one to kind of get here, just some good concept for just kind of being within the workshift of just getting ready to get to just got done with the workshift, getting ready to head to like an outing, some of that type fair, just some good exhilarating type stuff to kind of get you energized and pitches like that. It's a real good concept. Just the emphasis of just the melodies are real strong on here and just pitches like that. Some real days type stuff to kind of get in the trippy type motions of just some of that and aspects of it. This is some good stuff just because most of this album's kind of more groggy. I just would have to say this is one where you're just a little bit more alert, just not quite as much full blown in a daze and pitches like that. Maybe a little bit tore up, but not quite to the point of not being able to move around in pitches like that. I had to say, whether car or just residential on foot, some of those type pitches I'd have to say, but it's pretty good stuff to kind of get overall. I'd have to say just within the aspect, good stuff. Great song here to kind of get just within the outing aspect of it and just socializing pitches like that. Just in motion, I'd have to say, just real Travers type stuff. The Birds Part 2 is like a dreary kind of evening end of work shift ruminating of a song, I'd have to say, in particular, and this works well with Rolling Stone, I'd have to say. So this is a pretty nice one just for like the 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock p.m. malaise as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. Just some good type concepts, another good sequel, and another good tangent like Rolling Stone kind of was, just within that sense. It's a moody type song, I would definitely say. The Weeknd really lets the melodies kick in on this particular song, and just has some good overall emphasis that's pretty strong. I mean, it's pretty, like, it's definitely pretty ethereal just within the aspect of just being looming and pitches like that, but I definitely appreciate the vibe of it. I mean, it kind of makes you leave Earth a little bit. If you're more of like a down to earth type person, you may not enjoy this song as much just because the emphasis behind it is just so sprawling and large and looming, I'd have to say. The emphasis behind it is just pretty damn strong, I'd say. So it's a great concept. We're going to get this one, but it's just the ruminating is just real strong and it works pretty good within that pitch. The Weeknd definitely has character to do songs like this, but it is kind of dreary. It's kind of a worship type song. It's the emphasis of kind of being ground, but kind of not being ground, just in the aspect. I mean, I feel like some of these worship type songs are just interesting because it puts a new light on some of these particular type songs as far as that kind of goes along with it. But Rolling Stone and The Birds Part 2 are just some good concepts for like some dreary kind of worship. There's a lot of worship songs on this particular tape. So it's kind of the concept that The Weeknd does have some of these on here. Not as much full, but I mean, it is a club album in some it's a club album in some aspects, but it's not really like a dance album. It's more kind of the aspect of just kind of being more dazed and just kind of sitting down on a couch or at a booth or something. Some of those type pitches as far as that particular kind of goes. This, I would say, probably the closest thing to like the most jive that this particular album kind of gets, or this mixtape kind of gets, is just Lonely Star. That's the most one, but that's more just in motion of kind of driving there or walking there. Some of those type pitches kind of get to just being in motion. But for the most part, minus like Life of the Party, which is not much of a dance song, that's more like a groggy type one. Most of this is just kind of either work shift, just the dredge of just kind of being vehicle bound and just kind of the work shift malaise that just got done with work, or the concept of just finishing up work, or just the concept of like getting kind of more of like this kind of the dazness of it. It's this kind of concept. You'll see. It's this kind of the aspect behind it. It's not like this is bad. I mean, this is gonna get a 10 out of 10. It's this kind of concept that, you know, if you're looking for like some dance type tunes to really kind of get hype in, I mean, this is a more sluggish type project. I mean, there's definitely there's electricity to this project, but it's just kind of concept. It's just not within the aspect of like the dance, the ass shakers, some of those type ones, the money makers, those type ones to kind of get like for a typical aspect like Usher's Yeah, or like T-Pain's Buy You a Drink, some of those type pitches I'd have to say. But it's just a concept, just a different pitch and a different approach to R&B as far as that kind of goes, but it works. Thursday's another nice one. It's like a basic and vanilla kind of new era R&B haze of a song, I'd have to say. It's definitely some makeshift, but it's haunting and an emphatic gem, I would have to say, in particular. It's just a good concept about that. This one's a little bit more malaise about it. This one's a lot more autumn music compared to the Birds Part 1, but this is another type one that just kind of has some of that basic kind of makeshift type feel about it. Very powerful and structural in pitches like that. Just very looming and strengthy as far as that particular pitch kind of goes along with it. Just some excellent type stuff. The melodies really sing through on here. It's just another nice one to kind of sing along to and get that particular emphasis as far as that kind of goes along with it. Just some great stuff. Is what I'd say. Just the excellent concepts about this. So that's the particular mixtape as far as that kind of goes along with it. So I'd have to say, me recommending basically 8 songs out of 9 on this mixtape, at least in the original format. I give this mixtape like a 10 out of 10. It's the same thing with the album on. It's the same thing with the 2012 version of this with the song Blurry on there. I would have to say it's another pretty good pitch. 8 out of 10. I still would have to say I would give this album a 10. It would almost get like a 9.75 if I was a little bit more haphazard about some of these songs on here, but it's just the fact that most of these songs are such strong emphasis that a lot of these I do listen to oftenly and do appreciate quite a bit. So if it were, I mean, it's kind of here and there whether or not to give it like a 9.75 or a 10, but it's going to get a 10 just because the concept of some of these songs are so powerful and just hitting and trend setting and pitches like that and social and pitches like that and melodic, some of those type things in particular, I'd have to say. So it's just an excellent concept to kind of get there. Look after, that's kind of the thing about it. But yeah, once again, this thing about Blurry, I just didn't really appreciate the minimalist type approach, just the overall lo-fi type beat, or just not necessarily lo-fi, but just kind of the relative, just kind of taken aback kind of approach, and just more kind of staccato type, the staccato and just kind of limp kind of production type fare on there, and just the melodies were just not as hitting as far as that particular one. I just feel like the original touch of how this particular mixtape kind of went was just better in its original format from 2011. I mean, I want to say I at least like the song off of House of Balloons from like the 2012 trilogy, I'd have to say, but I don't remember as much. But I would have to say those songs I just don't listen to often as much because I did download the mixtapes back in 2011, but I'd have to say I'll just have to look after it. So that's this kind of thing. But in terms of the social score, like the social score is going to get a 10 out of 10, obviously, just because the emphasis and the overall powerful feeling of some of these. A lot of this is just white collar vibes and just pitches like that. Some powerful stepping out, some penthouse music, some stuff like that. some great ladies songs, just some groggy kind of emphasis and days type tunes. And there's even some workshift and makeshift kind of songs on here. It's this new era, has a very crisp type feel about it. I would have to. This project has a really crisp and just overall hitting type feel about it that just works extremely well. I'd have to say just within the social aspect behind it, it's a lot of good appeals of it. Even if it lacks like maybe like a full blown dance type song and just overall club type smash, that just has a lot of exhilarating energy. The emphasis behind this is just pretty strong. It's a very emphatic project. This has the emphasis down pretty pat. This would have to say, despite the fact that it may not be as crazy, it may not be crazy minded and just overall carnivorous, but the concept behind it, this is still pretty trippy and just overall emphasized with a lot of good social kind of effectual vibes about it. So that's a good concept. But in terms of the future, like the Weeknd has been working on stuff as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. He put out an album at least in 2022. The last time I checked in with him, he dropped Dawn FM. He might have dropped another album. I don't know if he dropped in 2023, but he's dropped at least as recent as early 2022, I'd have to say. So he's working on some other stuff. He's been on tour pitches like that. We'll have to see what happens with some of this particular type of stuff. I would have to say it's a pretty damn good mixtape here. It's a classic mixtape, trend-setting pitches like that. And I do have to recommend downloading this for sure. Maybe the trilogy version of this album, not as much, but I'd say in terms of the fact that this is free, there's definitely no reason not to fuck with this.